In today's episode, we unpack the profound psychological underpinnings of group identity and symbolism within the U.S. Marine Corps. We explore the historical evolution of their iconic dress blues, the rigorous crucible of boot camp, and the potent role of unit cohesion and in-group bias in forging an elite fighting force. Discover how shared history, potent symbols, and challenging rites of passage cultivate an unyielding sense of belonging and purpose, offering essential insights into military psychology and cultural anthropology for curious minds of all ages. Welcome back, curious minds, to Why Is That, Dad? The podcast where we unpack the science, history, and culture behind our kids' everyday questions. I'm your host, Phil, and with me today is my co-pilot in curiosity and real-life son, Dominic.
Hi, everyone.
And happy Veterans Day, everyone. If this is your first time tuning into us, usually one of my kids asks a question and I answer it considering the science, history, and culture. But today's different.
Why is that, Dad? Because it's Veterans Day and you want to do something special for all of the veterans?
Yes and no, because today is the day after the Marine's birthday anniversary. If you're listening to this the day I publish it. And we're talking about the Marines.
So you're a day late and $1 short? What am I here for then?
Because it's all the stuff I want you to know. It's really interesting. The Marines are awesome. Just ask one. They'll let you know. Today's topic does branch out to the other branches, but the Marines are what made me ask this question.
What's your question?
Let me give a little background. A few of my coworkers are Marines.
Whoa, don't you mean were Marines? You aren't in the Marines.
No, once a Marine, always a Marine. Anyways, last week they were talking about the big holiday coming up this week. I thought they were referring to today, Veterans Day, of course, but they told me that the Marine Corps' 250th anniversary was Monday, which is yesterday. That's a big deal. I asked another coworker, also a Marine. He said the same thing. Their big birthday was Monday. It got me thinking, what is it with the Marines? I know they are a kick-A armed service, but something about them is different. Even if they only were in for 4 years, that camaraderie and love for the Marines stays with them for life. They were all on the same page. Their birthday was Monday. Although my coworker was out of the Marines for 25 plus years, he still remembered it. Their love for their branch is something that I think is unparalleled in other branches in my experience. And considering all 7 of my siblings served in the military, I think I can say that. With those compliments out of the way, I'll be using some terminology that some may find kind of offensive, like mythology and legend. When I use these terms, I don't mean that these stories are made up whole cloth, but rather that they're used as part of a bigger story for a deeper purpose than just retelling history. And who doesn't love a good story?
Yeah, Dad. You better watch what you say about the Marines, though. Uncle Francis may beat you up. But what's this all have to do with our typical podcast style? Science, then history, then culture, etc.
Well, after doing some research, I figured out the science behind it and what's the big deal with the Marine Corps' birthday.
Science behind it? You sure it's not just because they like a party? I bet they get a big cake. Who doesn't like a party?
I'm sure the Marines like a big party, but today we're not just answering why they celebrate their birthday. We're going to dive deep into the fascinating psychology of group identity, explore how stories, legends, and potent symbols are strategically used to create an elite fighting force. We'll unpack the symbolism of the Marine dress blues, including the powerful, possibly apocryphal origin of the blood stripe, and the cultural impact of Toys for Tots. It's going to be a journey into human nature, military tradition, and collective excellence. So let's get to our first question.
Yeah. So what's the story behind the Marine Corps' founding?
Well, the United States Marine Corps was formally founded on November 10th, 1775, when the Second Continental Congress in Philadelphia passed a resolution drafted by John Adams calling for 2 battalions of Marines be raised to serve as landing forces and security for the Continental Navy. This date is a wellspring of Marine identity, even though the Corps was later disbanded after the Revolutionary War and permanently reestablished in 1798. The task of recreating the first Continental Marines fell to Captain Samuel Nicholas, who established his headquarters at the legendary Tun Tavern on the Philadelphia waterfront. This simple act gathering a few good men in a tavern, has become a powerful foundational story that symbolizes the Marines' rough and ready origins and their enduring commitment to service, beginning with their first successful amphibious raid in the Bahamas in 1776.
So it's a pretty special day. But why do they make such a big deal about it? It's not like a person is getting older. Do they do that for you in the Air Force?
Yes, they do it for me in the Air Force as well. Every September 18th, we celebrate our founding. We remember those that are in our lineage, going back to the U.S. Army Air Corps. Your great-grandfather served as a pilot during World War II, and although not officially the Air Force at that time, I consider him part of my Air Force lineage. All branches celebrate their founding, and many companies and other organizations do too. We'll talk about why it's a big deal later in this episode, but I digress. The Marine Corps' birthday, observed annually, is the most significant date on the Corps' calendar because it functions as an essential annual renewal of collective identity. Although the Continental Marines were founded in 1775 and then disbanded after the Revolutionary War, the date was officially formalized by Commandant Major General John A. Lejeune in 1921 via Marine Corps Order No. 47 to strategically link the modern force to its powerful Revolutionary War lineage. The celebration is not a mere party, but a ceremonial rite. Every command reads Lejeune's order summarizing the Corps' history, and the birthday ball features the ritualistic cutting of the cake with the Mameluke sword. The passing of the first piece of cake from the oldest Marine to the youngest Marine powerfully symbolizes the transfer of knowledge and tradition, reaffirming the Corps' enduring spirit, shared commitment, and sense of an unbroken lineage across the generations.
Whoa, they get to cut a cake with a sword? Can I do that for my next birthday? I never thought a birthday had that much meaning. But it doesn't answer your first question about why Marines shout about it from the rooftops. The Marines must really think there's something special. Why is that, Dad?
They are special, and it gets right to the heart of what the Marines call their esprit de corps, or group spirit. The answer lies in the intense psychological process that earns them the right to say, the few, the proud. The phrase is not just a catchy slogan, it's a statement of identity rooted in the principles of exclusivity and extreme challenge. What makes the Marine special starts with their rite of passage, the Crucible.
A crucible? Do they get melted down and formed into an ingot?
Symbolically, yes. The Crucible isn't just basic training. It's a 54-hour-long, sleep-deprived, high-stress exercise designed for one purpose, to break the civilian down and rebuild the Marine. The psychological strategy here is effort justification. Because the Marines make the entrance cost so incredibly high, both mentally and physically, the resulting identity and belonging are valued exponentially more by those who survive it. If you overcome that legendary trial, the title you earn is automatically elevated above any other. This manufactured difficulty creates profound unit cohesion, ensuring that the trust forged in shared suffering will hold firm under the chaos of combat. And the slogan, the few and the proud, leverages the psychological principle of in-group bias. By emphasizing their small size relative to other branches, they highlight their self-perceived elite status. This sense of being a small, highly selective fraternity is backed up by their commitment to valor. The Marine Corps has a historically disproportionately high number of Medal of Honor recipients. 297 Marines have been awarded the nation's highest decoration of valor. This number, especially considering the Corps is typically smaller than the Army or Navy, reinforces the narrative that the few are expected to deliver maximum commitment and courage. The sheer volume of awards symbolizes that extreme sacrifice and exceptional performance are not optional, but fundamental to the Marine identity. By being the few, they become the proud, and not in a bad sense of pride. They are proud of their service. I have deep respect for the Marines. The Marines see themselves as America's force and readiness, the branch designed to go ashore first. They carry the Mameluke sword and their own NCO sword to symbolize an aggressive, forward-deployed culture. Their entire identity, reinforced by their legendary stories and their status as the only NCOs in any U.S. branch authorized to carry a sword, is centered on being a frontline crisis response force. In short, what makes them special is the successful creation of a deeply bonded, highly motivated elite identity, built on legendary sacrifice and reinforced by symbols and trials that few others can ever experience. They are not just soldiers, they are the inheritors of a mythology.
Wait, you forgot something else special.
What's that?
Their song is way cooler than the Air Force song.
From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli.
And speaking of legendary stories, is there a story behind the hymn?
Yes, quite a story. That's where the power of the founding myth truly comes alive. The Marine Corps' narrative is stitched together by two iconic, geographically distant legends, summarized in the first line of the Marine Corps hymn. From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. This line is sung not just as history, but as a creed, establishing a lineage of extreme valor that stretches across continents and centuries. The oldest of these legendary stories is enshrined in the phrase, to the shores of Tripoli, which recounts the Corps' first major action on foreign soil during the First Barbary War, 1801 to 1805. This was a conflict against North African corsairs who were preying on American merchant ships. In 1805, Lieutenant Presley O'Bannon led a combined force, which included a small contingent of Marines, on a grueling, unprecedented march that covered over 500 miles across the Libyan desert. The goal was to reach and capture the fortress at Derna, Tripoli. The audacious success of this attack, a decisive victory fought thousands of miles from home, was one of the earliest demonstrations of the Marines' unique capability as an expeditionary, always-ready force. The victory was so important that O'Bannon was later presented with the Mameluke sword, which remains the ceremonial weapon of Marine officers today, making the Tripoli story a continuous, tangible part of their daily tradition. The story of the Halls of Montezuma is more geographically central to the United States, but equally vital to the Corps' combat reputation. This refers to the Battle of Chapultepec, which is just a fun word to say. The Battle of Chapultepec in 1847 during the Mexican-American War. Chapultepec was a seemingly impregnable stone fortress, a military academy serving as a final defense for Mexico City. Marines were part of the assault force that stormed the castle in heavy fighting. The battle cemented the Marine reputation for ferocity and gave rise to the legendary blood stripe, which we'll discuss more about later, symbolizing the near total loss of officers and NCOs who led the charge. Though historians note that the actual halls were Spanish colonial structures built onto the site of the ancient Aztec Emperor Montezuma's palace, the powerful name anchors the Corps to an image of ancient, indomitable conquest.
Whoa, they fought pirates? That's dope, Dad. Sounds like from the Secondhand Lions movie. I can just imagine swashbucklers fighting in the desert. So, that's why they have that sword, huh? Is there other significant symbolism and stories associated with their uniform?
Yeah, the Marine uniform serves as a living tapestry of the Corps' history, with every significant feature acting as a powerful symbol of valor and tradition. The most recognizable emblem is the eagle, globe, and anchor. Adopted in 1868, the eagle symbolizes the nation itself. The globe signifies the Marines' worldwide reach as an expeditionary force, and the anchor connects them directly to their naval heritage, visually affirming their role as a naval infantry force prepared to deploy anywhere. And that aforementioned red line, Dominic, is called the blood stripe, and it has one of the most powerful and unifying legends in Marine history. It's worn on the trousers of non-commissioned officers, or NCOs, and officers because they carry leadership responsibility. Now, here's where the power of legend comes into play. The red stripe itself was first authorized much earlier, possibly around 1834, as a matter of military uniform regulation. But this historical fact is overshadowed by the legend. The commonly told legend is that the stripe honors the officers and NCOs who fell during the Battle of Chapultepec in 1847. The fighting was so fierce that of the 10 Marine officers engaged, 9 were killed or wounded, and nearly 90% of the NCOs were casualties as well. The scarlet color represents the blood they shed fighting for their country. By wearing it, every Marine leader signifies that they are walking in the footsteps of those who led and made the ultimate sacrifice. The key takeaways for our listeners is this. Even though the stripe existed before this battle, the powerful, emotionally resonant legend that connects it to the extreme sacrifice at Chapultepec is what defines the symbol and the leadership tradition. Sometimes the apocryphal story is more powerful than the fact. Beyond the eagle, globe, and anchor in the blood stripe, other symbols reinforce rank and tradition. The Mameluke sword, carried by officers, is the oldest continually authorized weapon in any U.S. military service, a direct link to Lieutenant O'Bannon's previously mentioned 1805 victory in Tripoli. Similarly, The unique privilege of Marine NCOs to carry their own distinct NCO sword underscores their elevated status as frontline leaders. Even a small, often overlooked quatrefoil, the woven braid on the officer's cover, is a legendary piece of visual history, said to have allowed Marine sharpshooters in the rigging of sailing ships to be identified by their comrades below. Finally, the high collar of the dress blue jacket is a remnant of the leatherneck collars historically worn to protect the neck against saber cuts, permanently linking the uniform to their historical nickname and emphasizing their origins as tough, disciplined fighting men.
Wow, those are some awesome stories. But that seems so long ago. Are these just symbolic now? Are there more recent stories? Great-grandpa fought during World War II. Did the Marines have famous battles during World War II also?
Yes, the valor reflected in these symbols is real. The Marines have not rested on their laurels, so to say. They have continued their commitment to valor throughout their history. Here are some famous examples from World War II and the Korean War. The most obvious one I can think of is Iwo Jima in 1945. The small, volcanic island of Iwo Jima was required to provide a vital emergency landing strip for B-29 bombers returning from Japan, saving potentially thousands of airmen's lives. The Marines faced 21,000 Japanese defenders who were not fighting above ground, but from a vast, unseen network of tunnels, caves, and pillboxes dug deep into the volcanic ash. Progress was measured in inches, not yards. The famous picture of the flag raising on Mount Suribachi, the island's high point, occurred early in the battle, but the ensuing fighting lasted for over a month. Marine casualties were catastrophic, totaling nearly 26,000, but they achieved the objective with unyielding perseverance, providing the operational base necessary to secure the strategic bombing campaign against the Japanese mainland. There are countless stories of the Marines' valor in battle in World War II, and I'd encourage every listener to learn more about them. So now we'll turn to a war story during America's forgotten war. The battle around the Chosin Reservoir during the Korean War is legendary, not for a victory of ground gain, but for a moral and tactical victory of survival and unbroken discipline, validating their motto, Semper Fidelis, always faithful. In late 1950, the 1st Marine Division, advancing north, was suddenly ambushed and encircled by approximately 120,000 Chinese soldiers, who poured across the border, trapped in sub-zero temperatures, sometimes dropping to negative 30 degrees Fahrenheit, which is absolutely frigid. The objective was no longer to advance, but to break out and bring every Marine, every piece of functional equipment, and every casualty back with them. The Marines refused to break, fighting a disciplined 13-day fighting withdrawal to the port of Hungnam. It was during this epic breakout that the legendary quote from Major General Chesty Puller, "We're not retreating, we're simply advancing in another direction," was born. The Marines' cohesion was absolute. They repaired and rigged up supply bridges, fought off night attacks, and ensured that no wounded or dead were knowingly left behind. This demonstration of loyalty, the ultimate proof of their unit cohesion, under catastrophic cold and overwhelming enemy numbers, is considered one of the greatest feats of sustained valor and discipline in American military history. This battle represents the Marine Corps' commitment to maintaining discipline and order during a catastrophic retreat, demonstrating grit and tactical cohesion under extreme conditions.
So, all those stories in the training make them feel super special. How does that affect everything else, like in movies or how people think about them?
That's an excellent connection, Dominic. The Marine Corps' extremely strong group identity, built in those powerful stories and symbols, has a profound impact on popular culture and society. Their image as an elite, disciplined, and unwavering fighting force is intentionally cultivated. In film, television, and literature, they are consistently portrayed as the epitome of courage. This pervasive cultural presence helps maintain their prestige and attracts new recruits who aspire to join such a storied tradition. This distinct identity creates a famous, friendly rivalry with other branches, particularly the Navy. While all service members cooperate, each maintains its unique esprit de corps. The Marines' dedication to their high standards leads to proud distinctions. For example, Marines often jokingly refer to themselves as the men's department of the Navy. Or maybe not so jokingly.
That's funny.
It is. A phrase that asserts their role as a premier fighting force that goes ashore first, while acknowledging their historical roots. This intense self-affirmation is a key part of maintaining their operational edge and elite status. Beyond military pride, The Marines use their powerful identity for a significant social good through the Marine Corps' Reserve Toys for Tots program. This charity, founded by Major Bill Hendricks in 1947, is an incredible example of their strong group identity extending outward. Every year, Marine Corps reservists across the country collect and distribute millions of new, unwrapped toys to less fortunate children during the holidays. It's a way for the Marines to use their highly visible organization, their discipline, and their established network to embody the concept of selfless service to the nation.
I didn't know they supported children's charity. That's awesome. But Dad, at the beginning of the episode you said, figured out the science of this. You've mentioned mostly history, which is really fascinating, but you're leaving the audience hanging. What science are you talking about?
That is the central psychological theme of this entire episode, and it's a profound area of study. The relationship between story, symbolism, and military identity is where anthropology, history, and psychology intersect. In any elite military force, in the Marine Corps in particular, group identity is not based solely on training. It is built on a shared, compelling narrative. This narrative, reinforced by powerful symbols, serves as a psychological glue that transforms a collection of individuals into a singular, cohesive fighting force. The military deliberately uses narrative and symbols to achieve three psychological goals. In-group bias. This is the natural human tendency to favor your own group over others. The Marines foster this by creating an incredibly exclusive in-group. Stories and symbols, like the eagle, globe, and anchor, define the boundaries of this group, telling every Marine, past and present, exactly who they are and why they are superior. Next is unit cohesion. This is the bond that makes a unit function under stress. A shared story provides a common mental framework and shared history that binds individuals together, making them trust each other implicitly. When a Marine recites the hymn, they are reaffirming their trust in the collective history and the Marine next to them. And then effort justification. Because the training, the Crucible, is so difficult, Marines feel they must justify that intense effort. The narratives of legendary sacrifice and valor provide the necessary justification. I survived because I belong to this great, honorable lineage, and the suffering was worth the glory of the group. The Marine Corps uses legends to create a stronger emotional commitment than dry historical facts could ever achieve. The best example is the blood stripe. As we discussed, the red stripe was actually part of the uniform before the Battle of Chapultepec, but the story that goes with it gives it meaning far beyond some regulation. People don't fight for regulations. They're fighting for the fallen. By connecting the stripe not just to a regulation, but to an extreme act of sacrifice and a lineage of leadership that bled for the Corps, the legend transforms the uniform from clothing into a sacred object. It ensures that every leader wearing the stripe is constantly reminded of the cost of leadership, fostering immediate, powerful commitment far beyond what the facts of a 1834 uniform regulation could ever inspire. Symbols are narratives made visible and permanent. They provide daily, tangible reminders of the Marine identity. They give the uniform meaning. I don't want to repeat myself in the symbols used by the Marines, so I'll mention another symbol that all military can get behind. Can you guess what symbol I'm talking about?
Let me think. The bald eagle?
Nope.
Red, white, and blue?
Close.
Oh, the red, white, and blue. The American flag?
Bingo. It's the one symbol all military get behind, especially all those that we honor today on Veterans Day, is the United States flag. We set aside our military branch's group identity and focus on the country. The most profound symbol of all, the American flag, provides a foundational group identity for the entire nation and the ultimate purpose for the Marines' unique symbols. The flag's design, established by the Congressional Flag Act of 1777, with its 13 stripes and stars, is a visible, enduring narrative of our democratic birth and expansion. For the military, the flag represents the national consensus and a collective in-group of all Americans. When Marines raise the flag in a moment of decisive victory, a potent historical example being the iconic raising over Mount Suribachi on Iwo Jima, they are not just marking the territory, they are visibly connecting the specific, costly sacrifice symbolized by their blood stripe and their Medal of Honor recipients directly to the higher, unified objective of the United States. Protecting the flag is protecting the identity of the entire nation, giving all the Corps' specialized traditions a single, unifying moral purpose. In summary, the Marine Corps does not just teach history, it teaches mythology. These powerful stories and symbols are critical components of the psychological training that creates unwavering dedication, ensuring that when the chips are down, every Marine draws strength not just from their own resolve, but from the powerful collective narrative of the elite group they belong to. And this also answers the question I had of my coworkers who still consider themselves Marines, even after departing the branch many years ago. They hold on to their group identity the strongest because, although it's just my opinion, they have the most symbolism and legend incorporated into their group identity. It truly makes the few the proud.
That makes a lot of sense. So why is it important for kids like me to know all this stuff about the Marines and their special identity?
And that's the perfect question to wrap things up, Dominic. Understanding the Marine Corps, their traditions, and the psychology behind their strong identity isn't just about military history. It's about understanding fundamental human principles of belonging and achievement. It teaches us how powerful stories and symbols are. Every group you belong to, your family, your school, your team, has stories and traditions that define who you are. The Marines show us that sharing a challenging history and believing in a compelling narrative helps build strong bonds and achieve great things. It shows us how dedication, even to challenging tasks, can lead to incredible personal growth and an unwavering sense of pride, just like a Marine earns their title. And finally, it teaches us to appreciate the sacrifices made by brave men and women who serve our country to ensure our safety and freedom. Before we sign off, Dominic, do you have some trivia questions for our listeners?
I sure do. If you know the correct answer them in the comments section. We'll read the name of the person who is first to answer the trivia questions correctly during the end of the next episode. Unless you're shy, then give us the name of your favorite flavor of ice cream, and I'll make my dad buy it for the next episode. Please, someone answer with their ice cream flavor because my dad doesn't usually buy ice cream. Okay, question number 1. What is the name of the decorative braid on an officer's hat that was historically used to spot them on a ship? Okay, question number 2. How many Marines have been awarded the Medal of Honor throughout the Corps' history? And finally, question number 3. The blood stripe on the dress blues honors the officers and NCOs who died in which battle? And a special shout out to the person who got the last episode's trivia questions correct, Chad W. Congratulations, Chad, and happy Marine Corps' birthday and a happy Veterans Day.
Excellent questions, Dominic. We'll put the answers in the show notes for anyone who wants to check if they got them right. And if you enjoyed learning about the Marine Corps and the power of group identity, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on your podcast app. It really helps other curious minds find us. And you can also find more of our family adventures on our YouTube channel, Contemplative Chaos. Thanks for joining us on Why Is That, Dad? This has been a fascinating journey into the psychology of military identity. Until next time, keep asking those great questions. God bless.
Happy Veterans Day, everyone, and a happy belated 250th Marine Corps' birthday.